What is going on, everyone? What's up, Stormtrooper? How are you doing today? Man, my camera is kind of low. Let me move that up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. What's going on, everyone? How's everybody doing? Hope y'all are having a good Monday. Mine's been Monday. But we're here today. I'm super excited about starting a new mini today. Today is less of a mini and more of a display piece, I guess you could say. So we finished up with the Ultramarine Apothecary last week. And so this week we are going to start with this bad boy, who looks freaking cool, and I'm super excited about it. So let's get a little bit of a better view here. Looks super awesome. There's a lot of cool detail, and I think it's going to be some pretty good practice on things like skin tone, which I kind of struggle with. I've been getting a lot better, but there's also some really larger metallic details, so we can work on a little bit of non-metallic metal. There's leather, so I can start working on some texture techniques and things like that. So super excited. And hold on, I'm gonna turn this down just a touch because I'm having a hard time even hearing myself. There we go. There we go. Awesome. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. What's up, Calico? How are you doing today? We'll start off with the skin tone. So I went and looked up a recipe on a few things, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those paints out real quick. So essentially we're going to use tan flesh, a little bit of this burnt red by Pro Acryl, or actually it's by Monument, and then some just black. Oh, I always hear voices. So the recipe is 4 parts of this tan flesh to 1 part black and 1 part of that burnt red. So we're going to try that for our base coat, and then we're going to work our way up from there. Now the recipe they use was more of a maroon, but that's why I'm using this burnt red, because this burnt red is a nice kind of maroon color once it dries. I mean, don't we all hear voices? That's the real question. I'm going to grab a fairly large brush for this because, well, it's a fairly large miniature. And that's what I thought would happen immediately as I start this. And that is add way too much black and completely screw it up. Alright, so let's start off again on another part of the palette. And this is all part of the process a lot of the times for me when I'm trying new recipes and new techniques. I always end up fudging it just a little bit, having to try again. That's much more like what I'm wanting. So this is going to be our shadow for the miniature. At first I was super confused as to what the heck you were talking about, Calico, then I realized what you actually said, and now I don't want to answer. But that's a very good question. I've actually kind of wondered something, and you got to also realize that not all deaf people are mute as well. I don't know if that's still a socially acceptable term or not, but anyway. But you know how like there are some people whose thoughts are like words, and some are pictures. Some people like think in pictures or whatever. Like, when it comes to people who can't talk or are deaf or whatever, does it still, like, do some people who are deaf still think in words? And if so, how do they actually, like, what is, like, in their own heads, what does it sound like, if that makes sense? I would love to kind of ask somebody who's deaf, but I don't actually think I know anyone who's deaf. Yeah. Yes, Calico, that's a good joke. Listen, it's a good joke. Great joke even. But I'm gonna need you to stop. A little bit more water to this just so that we can get some better coverage out of our paint here. So that is one thing, if you do get into painting miniatures, thin your paints with water. Number one, it lasts longer. You can cover more. Also gives you much smoother finish than if you don't. You'll have to use more coats, but who cares? If you enjoy doing miniatures, the longer you can paint, the better, right? So if it takes you longer, then that's just more fun. Gosh, I've never sounded more like a nerd in my life. But you know what? I don't even care. Hey, Mom, how's it going? Good to see you here as always. Well, seeing as how he's not brown, that he's actually red, or reddish tan, I guess you could say. At least he is now. And keep in mind, this is just the undercoat. He's not going to stay. Skin tone is not going to stay this color. And there's where we make our first mistake of the, or second mistake of the day so far. So one of the things you'll notice that when I painted over this side of the cheek, it actually created this little blotch here. That's because I didn't let this paint dry thoroughly before painting back over, and it essentially peeled the old layer off. So it usually only takes around 20 to 30 seconds for each layer of paint to dry enough so that you can paint over it, but sometimes you hit a patch that takes a little bit longer to dry, and you end up pulling away some of the first layer. So you just gotta be a little bit patient sometimes. Which, as we all know, I have a lot of trouble being. My brother and my mom are like, he's spitting facts now. Chocolate and good enough to, okay. I'm not comfortable with this discussion. So does anybody have any fun Memorial Day plans? Or not Memorial Day, Labor Day plans? Yeah, exactly. I would never be impatient, ever. But we'll let this coat dry first, and we'll move on to the eyes. As usual, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of this red, like I would normally, but I'm actually going to darken it just a little bit. Just something I normally don't do, but I've been kind of watching some YouTube videos and kind of messing around with different techniques. So I want to try something new today. So as normal, we're going to paint the eye red first, and then we're going to paint over it with our the color we're going to paint the whites of the eyes. Did the whites of the eyes actually have? I'm sure they've got to. What are the official name for that? Because you have like your iris, and then you've got pupil. Like, what are the whites of your eyes called? Sleep sounds great. Back here. Huh, okay. Well, I will keep calling them the whites of the eyes because that is too big of a word to say. I'm like, oh, there is a term for it and it's too big. I don't want to use it. I feel like that's something I should have known but didn't. I blame MRS 704 because she's the one that homeschooled me. Alright, so what do y'all think we should do for the hair color? So we've done blonde. We did blonde for the pirate. I've done brown a lot. I've done black. So I guess maybe... I don't think he would look good with red hair. Maybe peppered gray? What do y'all think? Gray. The spot does not want to dry. It keeps peeling away the paint. That's annoying. This is where having an air dryer actually helps out a lot. When you have these stubborn areas that don't want to dry, you can hit it with a short blast with a hair dryer, and it actually will dry the paint just enough. So we'll go ahead. We'll go with. I think gray would look fine. But in order to get to gray, we need to base coat in black first. Because we want all the deepest recesses of our hair to be black to kind of get that peppered look. And then everything else is going to be highlighted with gray. And then we'll do a dry brush with a gray. And then we'll do a pass with a very light dry brushing of white. And that will give us kind of that peppered gray, that peppered look. We'll do the same thing with his little goatee here, but for his eyebrows, we're just going to stick with black. That it does. Unless I'm making fun of you or Dad, and then it's just funny. Mostly because I'm probably the one that put it there. Well, me and Beth. Yeah, I would say Stormtrooper probably didn't put as many gray hairs on that head as me and Beth did. No, he wasn't. He was just the... I don't know how to put it. He was definitely not an angel. But me and my sister are extremely ADHD. And so we would get distracted a lot easier. Like, you know, for instance, I mentioned that I was homeschooled. Well, me and my sister would get in trouble for not doing our schoolwork because we would get easily distracted. Versus my brother... You know, didn't always do his schoolwork, but did it a lot more consistently than I did. He's a little bit quieter than me and my sister are too, so a lot of the times he got in trouble was less of like being rowdy like me and my sister and more of just like not doing something, I guess, if that makes sense. And so, you know, like if we were at church, me and my sister would be the ones getting in trouble. My brother would be more the one getting in trouble at home. I don't know if that makes a lick of sense, but... Yeah, but, I mean... I think that's at the point, like... where a lot of my recollection falls off, because that once he got into algebra, that was like my middle school freshman year, or freshman high school / middle school, which is like, for me, a complete haze as far as what actually happened during those years. So like, it's funny, I can remember with vivid detail everything that happened, or not everything, but a lot of what happened during my and when it happened in my elementary school and high school years. But middle school, I don't remember most of it, or what happened during that time. I think because like it was at that time my grandparents started having a lot of surgeries, and so we were kind of back and forth from home to their house and things like that. Stuff like that was happening. And so it just kind of, everything's a blur. All right, let's see if I can get some of this paint and start trying to fix these little patches of stuff that I missed or messed up. I did not do algebra with Steven. I did, I may have done algebra 2, but I didn't do algebra 1 with him. Because I remember, because I was excited for algebra, but then when he had a hard time for it, I was just getting into pre-algebra, because I remember he was always telling me that, oh, it's so much harder than what pre-algebra was. So I know for a fact we didn't do Algebra 1 together. We may have done Algebra 2 or Advanced Math together, but I know we didn't do Algebra 1 together. Ah, man. See, this is what happens whenever I try to fix a color I mess up. So I always end up doing like a back and forth trying to get it to work, but I really don't want to waste all this paint. There we go. What's going on, Liam? How you doing, man? Worst thing that'll happen here with this kind of having to... This is one thing I don't like about doing custom mixed paint, is if I don't get it exactly right, then I'm just going to have to end up doing everything again, which is fine if I'm only doing a single layer. But it's kind of a pain sometimes. Nice. Well, I hope your relaxation is going well then. Did you win any interest? Easy for me to say. Did you have you won any interesting chess matches lately? No, sarcasm is. We already know this. So one thing, I'm glad I'm kind of redoing this whole layer, or at least painting over this whole layer, because I just looked back at that spot that had dried, and it was a shade or two too light. So this was definitely needed. Again, this is kind of why one of the few things I hate about doing custom mixed paints, because if I customize it, I get exactly what I want, which is a good thing, but then if I have to redo the layer, or if I have to paint over something or go fix an error, it's a lot harder to recreate that match perfectly, even with the recipe. Gotcha. Imagine having daily quests in chess. Like, that's I mean, I know the program you use, so I know they exist, but it's fascinating to me that apps, you know, like chess apps and stuff like that have got to give people quests, or like are offering quests, because I feel like that's kind of our gaming culture nowadays. Like, there's not a quest, or there's not a goal in mind, most people just kind of give up on it. Unless it's something like Minecraft, where it can either be as complicated or as mindless as you want it. But even then, like, Minecraft now has a story, has a storyline to it, so it's like, okay. my eyes again, another coat just to give get myself some good opacity here. Now I'm going to use my smaller brush here to go back in and start getting close into some of these details like the eyes and the eyebrows and stuff like that, so I don't have to worry about my big, you know, coming in with like a hammer. The hammer, that's my bigger brush. It's actually probably a good analogy if you kind of want an analogy of like trying to figure out which brush to use. A smaller brush is going to be like I'm trying to think of what, like a precision tool, like a screwdriver or something like that, versus a larger brush would be your hammer. And then your dry brush is like a specialized tool that can only really do one thing, but it does that one thing incredibly well. Gotcha. I thought you just said, hold on, maybe I misread it. So, okay, I'm kind of confused because you said just trying to keep up with daily quests and such. Are those like personal goals of yours, or unless I'm confused? I mean, I'm always confused, but even more so now. Let's try to get some of these these little like detail hairs that go onto his forehead. You know what? I'm gonna wait on those because I'll probably mess those up when I go in and start doing all of my layering for his face. All right. So I did do something interesting today. So I actually made up a custom color specifically for the whites of eyes. I was watching a video of a painter, and he was talking about how he switched to start using like a brown beige color for the whites of his eyes. And the reasoning behind it was whenever you do specular highlights, which basically means reflections on your eyes. So if you look like in a mirror or you have like light on your eyes, you'll see like little white dots. If you paint the whites of your eyes pure white, those don't show up as well when you actually paint them on. I've been using like a polished bone color, but I saw this one guy and he suggested using a brown beige. So I'm gonna try that today. And I'm going to, as always, leave a little bit of that redness around the edges of his eyes. Now, if my shaky hand would let me, gotcha. So if you can kind of see that, compared to a skin tone, it still looks white, even though it's that brown beige. So that way, whenever we go in for our specular highlights on the eyeballs, it'll actually look white and it'll actually look a little bit glossier than if it was white on white or white just on the iris or pupil. Dude, my hand is shaking so much today. I know y'all can't see what's going on, or I apologize about that, but I'm trying to mitigate my hand shaking a little bit right now. There we go. Not bad. So we've got the whites of his eyes now. So now let's figure out what color we want to make his eyes. I've done green before. I kind of want to, kind of explain where my head's at with this particular miniature. I kind of want to do some stuff that I haven't done before and just try to kind of experiment with a few things. So, you know, like, since I've done green eyes already, I don't want to do green eyes again. Done blue eyes a couple times. I've done brown. I think I may have done pretty much all the like normal eye colors already. You can always try something fantasy. Of course, he is a fantasy character, so that would definitely fit. What are y'all thoughts on eye color? There we go. All right, that looks a lot better. Grayish blue, so kind of like a hazel. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I think that would look actually pretty good, because if he's older, kind of usually for whatever reason, like at least in fantasy, gray eyes usually like signify age. Or at least that's the way I've seen it in the past. So, let's mix up some stuff. So I've got this dark gray blue, actually, from Pro Acryl. And we'll use some of that for the base color, and then we'll add a little bit of a highlight around that. Of more of a gray than a blue. And I think what that'll give us is kind of a core of color. And then give the gray highlight a little bit more depth, I guess you could say. More character. If I don't mess this up first. Alright, so that's one eye. Now let's try the other one. Now this is one of the more challenging parts about doing eyes, is doing it in such a way that you don't make the eye look like he's cross-eyed. What up, Cal? That is indeed what we would refer to as an entrance. All right, let's... Again, I apologize if y'all can't see it, but I've got to kind of keep this in a way where I can do it right. There we go. That looks nice. You've never seen that clip, Stormtrooper? From it was on a geez, what is that called? Yeah, Family Feud. If you knew where it was, if you knew where it was from, why are you asking? All right, so we'll take a little bit of light gray here. We'll go ahead and switch to a much smaller brush. Not much smaller, just smaller brush. We'll grab some of this light gray and mix it in with our blue. Nice. I don't know. He's so it's a bust that I got from my favorite miniature producer, Loot Studios, and I am just I'm painting him up. He's got kind of got a Witcher feel to him. So that's kind of what I'm going with. Except I'm doing kind of gray blue eyes versus the golden eyes. Golden eye. There we go. So I don't know if y'all can see that. So we kind of got a dark blue ring around the kind of gray blue center. And then we'll go in for the pupils. So we're going to go with kind of this thin down black that we already have over here. We're going to want to thin it down so it comes off of my brush easily. little bit larger. There we go. I think those look amazing. And next, let's grab our brightest white that we have, which is this titanium white. Excuse me, bold titanium white. Drop a little bit on our palette. And we're going to go in and do a specular highlight on each eye. So this is going to kind of simulate our eyes being glossy and reflective. And we're going to put it right on the edge of the iris and the white of the eye. Oop, looks like we got a little bit of dried paint on the tip of the brush. Let's wash it off. Try again. There we go. We'll zoom in on that a little bit. It's a little bit more visible in real life than it is on the camera, because the camera will always have less color identification than our eyes, but I think it looks good. All right. So next things next. That was weird. We'll go ahead and start in with our first base tone, which is going to be just this pure tan flesh coat here. Maybe we'll add a little bit of a yellow to it just to lighten it up a little bit. So we'll put some yellow on our palette here. Nice. Dropping everything as per usual. All right, so now what we're going to do with this is we are going to cover everything where we think light would start hitting. You're really only going to keep that original color in the recesses and then in certain areas to kind of give us a little bit more dynamic, more of a dynamic look here. And I'm going to be spending, just to let y'all know, I'm going to be spending a long time on this face because this is kind of where I want the bulk of, I want people's eyes to be drawn to that part of the miniature. So we're going to spend a lot of time on it. Kind of like that. I like where that's headed. I'm kind of tracing out his jawline here so I know where I'm going to paint, kind of blocking in my color before I actually start painting it. Okay. So one of the reasons I added this red into his skin tone is I really want to kind of get this kind of blush to his face. If y'all look up like a kind of a Spanish style skin tone, you'll notice that a lot of the more deeper recesses and shadows have an extremely red look to them. And so that's kind of the look that I'm going for here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to accomplish it to the extent that some of the miniatures I've seen have been able to, but man, they look fantastic. So we'll see if we can at least replicate it a little bit. Our bread and butter really on this is going to be our base coat and our ability to blend. So right now, I guess if for those of you who are female, I guess, think of this like whenever you're doing like makeup and like, I don't know, I've seen like people doing makeup on TikTok or whatever, talking about like they block in like where their makeup is actually going and then they blend it in. That's kind of what I'm going for here. I don't know if that's actually how you do it, but that's what I'm going to try for. Right now I'm just trying to get all the, he's got a lot of really interesting wrinkles on his forehead here. So I'm just trying to get all of them right where I want to be while still leaving that base coat in the recess. Because I really, really, really hate applying a shade after I've applied a midtone. For me, it just never turns out really well. TikTok is, I just mentioned TikTok. TikTok is one of the weirdest places I've ever been on the internet. Because like, it's like, I could be watching nothing but nerd stuff, right? It's like, oh, this technique in D&D or, you know, whatever. And then like randomly, I get some like blacksmith like explaining how horseshoes were invented. Or then like I'll get like some random person cooking. It's like, this is what people in the 18th century ate. It's like, I don't know how you thought I would like this, but I'm kind of into it now. I feel like the TikTok algorithm sometimes knows me better than I know myself. Wait, which one was that? Or are you talking about Liam or me? Yeah, I see a lot of funny animal stuff too, specifically dogs, which I don't mind because I am definitely a dog person. Where did I... Oh, that. Right. I sent it to you in Discord, right? Oh, and you're talking about Shorzy. Yeah, so with Shorzy, no, you don't actually ever see his face in Letterkenny. But it's the same guy who actually plays one of the taller hick in the first clip I sent you. It's the same guy who plays them both. But yeah, a lot of the humor in Letterkenny is exactly like that. There's some like cringe style humor like you and I were talking about last night, but a lot of it is that same kind of humor from those clips. I like where this is heading already. Still a lot of work to be done, but it's looking pretty cool. That's why it looks odd. Okay. I have to go back and fix something real quick, so I'm gonna grab my original color here. I was wondering why I didn't have to worry about this kind of laugh line over on this side. It's because on this side I just painted over it by accident. It can, but I think they, you know, like I mentioned, they do different kinds of humor throughout the show, so it never feels the same. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it never feels like it never, you know, like they do enough cringe humor where I'm like, okay, that's pretty cringy, but then they'll stop and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then it'll come back and I'll be like, oh, cringe humor, but then it'll stop. And so it like never feels like The Office, where it's just cringe humor for like the first entire season, right? Like I never got, even though there is quite a bit of cringe humor in the first season, I never got the sense that it was like really, really bad. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this same skin color on his hair. One of the things that I learned is, like, you know, what we were talking about last time, that if you add, the closer you get to the, who's it? Man, I can't think right now. The complementary color. The more of a complementary shade you add, the closer to gray you get. So the guy that I was watching kind of the tutorial on how to do this style mentioned that if you want stubble, a good thing to do would be to paint, you know, a very, very, very thin kind of blue over the area that you want the stubble, kind of in a glaze. And that glaze will make it look gray without actually painting in the color gray. So we'll see how it works. Just making sure that all my sides are kind of not exactly the same, because the way he's kind of turned to one side, some of his skin is going to be stretched and some of it isn't. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm a little bit symmetrical, but not completely. It's like I don't want his cheekbone on one side to be like here and then the other one here, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the give and play whenever that I have in miniature painting. Like, there's always a bit of like, well, this needs to be improved. Well, I need to do this here, but I need to move this back in order to get this effect. And it's never all about painting one thing one way and then you just move on. There's a lot of give and take. Figure out where the jawline is on this guy. There we go. All right, let's start in with some ears. Very similar to what we've been doing. All the bits that are kind of tallest are going to get this highlight, and everything in the recesses are just going to stay the same. One of the things that I'm really excited about, this guy's got some really cool like earrings, and he's got like a brow ring and stuff like that. This could be kind of fun to paint. Well, I'm not done. So I haven't made him look like anything just yet. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and do some more of these highlights here, just to kind of start getting them a little bit more opaque. But what about this guy makes you think that he's in his 20s, Calico? Oh, for sure. So obviously we're not done yet. So that is actually something that I planned on. So I am going to be adding blemishes and things like that to his skin. So that is on the game plan, part of the game plan. Right now we're just getting things blocked out and ready for blending and layering. All right, we're gonna take a little bit of this, start getting ready for the first highlight. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put a ton of highlights on him, but we'll see. Take a little bit of this mix here just to line it up a little bit. I have no idea if this color is going to look good or not, but I'm kind of going for a recipe that I'm kind of borrowing / stealing. So I don't know exactly if this is going to look how I want it, but we'll give it a shot. No, it's not. And I guess also it depends on who you ask. And again, keep in mind that this is still just the first highlight phase. And we haven't done any blending yet, but I think it is looking decent. Very true. Especially if it is a widely used and known technique. Like, especially in music, there are certain riffs and things like that that are considered folk that can't be, like, copyrighted. Like, especially in, like, like folk music like blues. Or not folk music like blues, but like, I think you know what I mean, but like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of grays, and there's definitely a lot of like, can't really, you know, steal a technique that everybody uses. Okay. Just got a little bit of a highlight here on his neck, down here on his collarbone. And also keep in mind that as I'm doing this, this isn't necessarily his quote-unquote skin tone, but a highlight of his skin tone. So it's, we're not really trying to like convey what his skin necessarily looks like, but how his skin is reflecting the light source that is around him. Did I highlight? No, I didn't. I forgot to do his right ear completely as far as the midtone goes. Sounds about right for me. Go. That's looking a lot better. Now we won't just have that sharp jump in brightness. Or it could be the drugs you took earlier. Alright, so let's start getting some blends going. So we're going to grab a bit of a glaze here. just start working the highlight and start blending it in with some of this blush. Again, moving from light to dark and towards the color that we are blending. So we get a nice, start to get a nice blend like that. Just breaking up that shadow a little bit. Or breaking up that line, I should say, not the shadow. Moving in the same direction. And we're just going to keep working all these layers down until we get a nice smooth transition, very similar to what we've done before with our non-metallic metal on the swords, things like that. Shut up, Shorzy. He doesn't say that, but I don't want to say the actual line. Alright, so let's grab running out of our glaze here, so let's add a little bit more paint. There we go, that's good. Alright, cool. And then once we get that done, we're going to go back over the same area that we did before. We do a little bit more area. Keep in mind when we're doing glazing, we really want to make sure that our first layer is dry before we move on to the second one. Oops, wrong way. Some of this is not really working out for me, but that's okay. We'll just keep plugging along until we get a nice smooth transition between the two. So those dry, I'm going to start moving on to some of the mid-tone transitions from our mid-tone to our highlights here. I hate to say yes because I know exactly what you're talking about, but you know, yes. So I'm like, I don't want to look like a fatty, but I am 100% a fatty who would 100% eat an entire tray of Oreos without even thinking about it, and then regret it later. I'm exactly that kind of person. And I can say I come by it honest because my dad was is the exact same way. He could eat an entire tray of cookies without even thinking about it. Without batting an eye. Because we have a sweet tooth that was given to us by the very depths of hell. I think that is looking really, really neat. Yeah, I just use Oreos as an example because Oreos come in like the trays. We're getting closer to our goal as far as the blending goes. Slow down my brush movement just to make sure that we are getting consistent strokes so that we don't have areas of the blend that are significantly like further out, I guess you could say, than the others. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Now I'm seeing some inconsistency, so what I might do is come back with the original mid-tone color, just start blending in the other direction so that we can kind of smooth out some of these errors. One place I've completely neglected is down on the back of the head towards the neck, so let's correct that. Also, if you look at the top of his head, see how it's white now? That's why I use this paint handle, because whenever, like, even if it's primed, like, I'm just making slight contact on the top of his head, I'm already rubbing off all the paint. So that can very easily happen, which is why I use a painting handle. All right, so let's look at where we're at here. While it is significantly more ideal, at least in my mind, to use dark into light, I'm running out of this paint, so I might have to just kind of use the mid-tone to go into the darker tone, which will take more layers and ultimately more time. But if it turns out okay, then I'm fine with it. Because again, with this guy, we're just going to take our time because I really want, because the face is kind of the central focal point of the entire thing. So That's going to be the first thing everyone sees. So I really want that to come across as well as possible. Cheese. That's amazing. Who knew milk liked cookies that long? If you get it, you get it. Y'all ever make a joke, think it's the funniest thing in the world, and realize that you are probably the only one who found it funny? So now I'm doing the opposite of what I've been doing. So I'm taking the mid-tone and I'm glazing back from dark to light across what I've already done to kind of both move the highlight back to where it was originally, to also help that blend a little bit better. And we'll continue the blending process with these highlights. There. What are y'all thinking so far? I think he looks pretty dope. I think the blush on this is a little bit too round. So I'm actually going to take some of this paint and kind of push it down a little bit more. In the shape of his jaw. Require me to do a little bit more work in redoing some of that. Some of the blending, but that's okay. I can see what I can do with some feathering here. See if I can't get that blend started. This is not looking great. But that's what the refining process is for. That's a little bit better. right, so while that dries, I'm going to grab some of this blue-gray, and we're going to do a very, very, very light glazing of this gray-blue over the place where I want his stubble to be. What I mean by light is I'm going to water it down quite a bit. There, let's try that. It doesn't look good, oh well. So it is giving me a little bit of a blue tint, but it does look gray actually. Interesting. Places where it's really shining blue is like right where I lifted up my brush, which of course that's gonna be the where the most pigment is laid down. But I think that actually looks kind of cool. All right. Well, let's full send it and hope it stays like that. That's what happens when you trust people to actually do this kind of work professionally. It actually looks good. I kind of agree. But overall, there's not a ton I can do about that. Yeah, that actually turned out a lot better than I thought it would. It gives it more of a purple than anything else, but it looks like stubble. So what I'll do then is I will go in with some gray and start stippling in a little bit. And then I'll bring in some brown, mix that with my skin tone, and start in doing kind of the blemishes and stuff. And that's going to be after I actually finish doing all my blends here. Dude, I am really digging how this technique is looking so far. Oh, I'm excited! I'm excited! It's that moment where a new technique starts actually looking good and stuff starts kind of clicking as far as like stuff you've tried in the past. And it's moments like that where it's like, oh man, this is awesome. Where's the stubble? I don't see what you're seeing. Clean a little bit of this up here. Make it look a little bit more consistent. Consistency is so important, y'all, when it comes to stuff like what I'm doing. Because while human skin is inconsistent, we need to, it's kind of this weird thing that I've learned where it's like you kind of have to make it look inconsistent in order to make it, or you have to make it look consistent in order to make it inconsistent, which is kind of this weird thing, but it works. All right. Okay, cool. So now that that's on its way, I'm gonna go ahead and let all those layers dry because I want to kind of give my eyes a fresh look at it as we work on other things. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix some of the hairline here. What's ironic? Oh, you mean the got to make it look consistent in order to get inconsistency? That bit? It is. Part of it is that like you have to kind of have a place to start. I guess to kind of, for me, it's more of like, if I want something to be inconsistent, I want to know what it looks like first. And so I paint a good, consistent kind of color and tone and palette. That way, later on, when I start putting some variance to it, I know where I want that variance to be. So I don't think it's universal that people want it to be consistent before it's inconsistent. That's just something that I've learned works for me. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is another one of those things that I might regret later, but I'm going to start adding a little bit, stippling in little patches of hair here and there. I think those splotches are a little bit big. Unfortunately, it's a little late to remove them, I think, so I think I can cover them up a little bit. Just put a little bit of paint on the tip of my brush. Kind of like cut them in half, if you will. I know I want to stipple this on. I'm just trying to figure out what the best method is going to be. Let's use the brush I made to stipple with. I want to get most of that off. There. It's kind of like that. It's kind of sort of what I'm going for. Ish. I guess the kind of thing that I'm going for is kind of that 5 o'clock shadow look where there's stubble, but also like that discoloration that comes with really, really low hair. There we go. I think that looks okay. Cool, 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 cool. Just a little bit of texture there. That's all we need. Now we'll do the same, kind of a similar thing. Not really, but I was thinking the wrong thing. Whatever. We'll go ahead and take our dry brush. And where's my texture palette here? We'll go ahead and start doing some of the hair. And similar to the pirate that we did a while back, this is kind of going to be a nerve-wracking, thing for me because spent a lot of time and effort on the skin. I really don't want to mess it up, but we'll be careful. I think we'll be fine. All right, let's grab a medium dry brush for now to do the top of the head, and then we'll go in and we'll kind of work our way up from kind of a medium to dark brown, or gray, all the way up to a very light dusting of white, if you will. So we'll use our medium dry brush here from Citadel. And we'll just start dry brushing it on. The reason I'm using a flat dry brush in this case is because it's a lot more accurate than a round dry brush, even though it's a little bit more directional. So that way I don't have to worry about, or I should say when I get closer to the forehead and places like that, whereas temple area, I don't really have to worry about, or it's easier to not get this where I don't want it. I'm going to take a little bit of this and stipple it here as well. It's not going to come up as well as the other stippling I did, but it'll give just enough of a couple gray stipples here just to give it that idea of peppered hair. Like that. Okay. Do another pass here because again, I want the primary kind of gray color to be this darker gray versus the lighter gray. The lighter gray we really want to reserve for the very top parts of his hair because we want it to look peppered. We don't want it to look white or fully gray. There we go. That's a looking nice. And then we will use a little bit of this too on the beard. To match. All right, cool. So let's move to our next shade. So that was that London Gray or was that light gray? I think that was London Gray. So we'll go to our light gray next. Yeah, that was London Gray. And as per usual, we're not going to dry or clean off our brush just yet because we do kind of want a little bit of that gray to come back just for consistency's sake. So we want some of this, not a ton, but we do want it to show up. So we're going to lightly apply it, but we're going to be a little bit heavier in some areas. Just letting the brush do the work here. Okay, and then I'm going to use the edge, kind of show what I'm doing here. I'm going to use the edge of my palette to just kind of rub or like pull the brush along to try to kind of get rid of a little bit of that pigment for when we move to our sky gray, which would be our lightest color here. This is almost white. It's very, very close. I'm just gonna make sure we don't have too much on our brush. I'm just gonna give a light dusting. There you have kind of a peppered hair look. Let's add a little bit more brightness to this temple here. And along his brow. There we go. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of this and I'm going to start. I'm going to pull some of it off and just start stippling a little bit of this light gray around his stubble here. Again, to add a little bit of that peppered feel to the stubble as well. Like so. I mean, I would say same, but I don't have any hair, so that's not something I have to worry about just yet. I'll have to, I hope my beard goes gray in a really cool way. That's the thing that worries me. Like, hope that when my beard goes gray, it looks cool instead of looking weird. I'm gonna dry off my brush here on my texture palette, just by moving it back and forth. There we go. All right, so one thing that is going to be kind of the fun part about this whole kind of peppered look is the eyebrows. Because his eyebrows are, I'm imagining like that they would be a little bit more, they wouldn't really go gray, right? So, but I need highlights. So that's just not too, like black pieces of resin, molded resin, that they actually look like something. So what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of light gray, mix it in with my black so that I get very, very dark gray. I'm just gonna start kind of highlighting some of this. Put a little bit of water here because it looks like this is about dried up. There we go. What I could also do is paint this whole, all of his eyebrows dark gray and then use like a black wash to kind of give it that highlighted feel. But I don't think I want to go that direction. Because I want to stay away from washes as much as possible for this particular project. I think that looks baller. So, let's go ahead and add in the base coat for his golden jewelry. That is very true. And yeah, I feel like we take age for granted. You know what I mean? You know, you're absolutely right in that there are a lot of people who never actually get to experience what it's like to age. I wish it was something that we kind of didn't take for granted as much as we do as like, I want to say as a society, but we're in two different societies, you and I. But I think I think that we kind of take it for granted, very much so. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, and that's kind of the frustrating thing, right? Like, that's why I hate kind of the like people who are like, you know, I don't want to say the YOLO movement, because YOLO isn't exactly a thing nowadays as it used to be, as much as it used to be, but like that whole like culture where it's like, you know, kind of take for granted the life that you have. And yeah, you only live once, but how about instead of living it for you, live it like you're going to die in a year and see. Like, I think if people actually did that, our society would look a lot different. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't. And it would just get worse because everybody would start like just trying to party it up as much as possible. I would hope people would actually start like improving their own and other people's lives if they actually thought that they were going to die at 30. You know? I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think people would be more extreme, or in like the kind of like living for oneself lifestyle, or would they, or do you think people would actually start living for the improvement of other people? Yeah. Yeah. So my dad is a firefighter paramedic. So this idea of living forever, or the attitude of I'm going to live forever, never really was a thing. At least for me and my brother, obviously. But yeah, I just wish more people kind of had that attitude of, you know, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And what if tomorrow never came? You know? What would you do? And again, I wonder, like, how would that change one person's life, or like their perspective on life? Because there's so many stories of people getting like, you're gonna die in 3 months, and then like doing so much with the 3 months that they were given. I wonder how much of our society would actually do that, or if we would, like I said, just kind of go like full send the YOLO lifestyle, where it's like, well, I'm gonna die in 6 months, so I'm just gonna party it up and live for myself. Like, I wonder how many people would do that versus living their life in a way that matters. Well, I'm curious to what y'all think about this little bit here. He's got this pendant on his necklace. There's that little square in the center. Do y'all think that should be a gem? Or more just like a molded in piece of the pendant? And Stormtrooper, I guess that's kind of my point, is like, what do we mean when we say that? What does it mean to live like you're dying? Does it mean that you go and party it up and hit up the clubs every day until you die? Or does it mean that you go out and you actually help people and make society better? That's kind of what I'm curious about. It's like, what would people actually do if they knew they were dying? Because everybody says what they think they do if they got that news. But nobody, I wonder how many of us actually would do what we say we would. Or, on the flip side, how many of us would actually... Yeah, exactly, Calico. I would definitely agree with that. And it's... I guess it's an interesting thought experiment, if you will. So I think I'm going to do exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. And I'm going to paint his eyebrows fully gray and then use a little bit of a wash to try to get that detail back into it, because it's just not looking like I want it to. Or I can just do that. Yeah, I'll leave the bottom of the eyebrow black, do the top of the eyebrow gray. And then like the back half of the eyebrow, like full gray, and then still use the wash. To kind of get some of that detail back in. Let's just see what that does. All right, moment of truth. So I'm gonna bring out Nuln Oil, which is a good, whoa, what just happened? Oh, that's what happened. I was like, I didn't touch my Stream Deck, but no, I hit my mouse and my mouse just happened to be over the start screen button. That was weird. Yeah. Exactly, I did. It definitely does depend on your belief system. But I also, at the same time, I feel like a lot of people would just kind of, and maybe it's just the cynic in me. I feel like a lot of people would just do whatever in the world they wanted to and kind of everybody else be damned. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of Christians do that too. Or would do that. Or people who, I should say people who identify as Christians. I feel like a lot of them would just kind of, oh, I'm going to die? Well, I guess it's either A, time to actually get right with God, or B, everybody else be damned and I'm going to live for myself now. But then again, I think that's just generally true of society as a whole. We probably see, I'd say maybe 60% of people would just go, be like, well, everybody else be damned. I'm just going to do my own thing now. And then the 40% would go and try to help people. And I don't know, maybe that's a generous estimation. I have no idea. Certainly something to think about, like, what would you do in that situation? Not thinking about what other people would do, not thinking about, you know, what would other people do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? I hope I would try to help people. But I guess we'll never know until we're actually faced with that situation, and we will be faced with that situation, right? We're all gonna die. It's just whether or not we know we are or not. This stream got really depressing really fast, so I'm gonna lighten the mood and be like, what is y'all's absolute most favoritist thing to eat? Like, if you could only have one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? You know, Calico, somehow I knew that was going to be your answer. Like, no matter what your favorite food actually is, your answer was going to be freaking pineapple on pizza. Am I surprised? No. Am I disappointed? Also no. This song is starting off kind of like something from the Mass Effect soundtrack, which, by the way, is a baller soundtrack. Everything about the Mass Effect series, I swear, was like the perfect game with the exception of the end, the original ending of 3. Which, no, everybody hates on it, but like, it's so true. And we don't talk about Andromeda. Are we just an anti-pineapple on pizza family? I feel like we are. We are pizza purists. Fair. That is true. So, like, you could say, hey, I don't want to have chicken tacos today, I can have beef tacos. I don't want to have beef tacos today, I guess I'll have some shrimp tacos. I don't want shrimp tacos today, I guess I'll have fish tacos, right? There's 1,000 different tacos. Literally, you could just put anything inside a tortilla, fold it in half, and call it a taco. I don't even have to say anything. I just have to stare into the camera. I'm pretty sure Calico just wants to watch the world burn. You know what the solution to that is, Stormtrooper? Get a different job, work second shift, eat as late as you want. Fair. Alright, so I'm going to use some of this Off-White from Vallejo to do my first kind of white highlight for my non-metallic metal here. And then we'll move to bright white for the like the actual reflections. Also, Stormtrooper, do you know what the best solution for being hungry before you go to bed? It is 100% effective. And that is going to bed. No, just go to bed. Go to bed and you won't be hungry anymore. Until morning. Oof. Is ice cream an option? But anyway, Stormtrooper said goodnight. So, Stormtrooper, good night. I hope you have a great evening. And I will see you when I see you. Probably apple pie with ice cream. Oh Lord, I'm scared. Oh yeah, I actually saw that. It's really, really cool. It's super cool. So, well, I can't show it on stream technically, but for those of you who would want to know what it is a paintball marker that is put into an old rifle stock, and it looks like a real rifle, and it's super, super cool. All right, we're gonna take some. I'm gonna do his hair wrap, and I'm just gonna do it like a brown leather. So we're gonna use some earth brown as our primary color, and then we'll highlight it with some of that leather brown that I've got, some of that tanned leather. Oop. I've honestly never been able to bring myself to have rhubarb pie. I know there's a lot of people that like it, but it's just, yeah, can't do it. I don't know, it's the texture, the smell, like I just don't like either. So I'm not entirely sure why all of that kind of makes me cringe, but it does. This could be the most tedious part of this project, is doing this necklace. So I've got to paint and then repaint because it's light over dark, which always has bad coverage, every single one of these little links. But again, if I painted because I only want to do the exciting bits, then I would never actually paint, because base coating is the worst. I'm not necessarily picky. I'm genuinely not a picky eater. There are certain textures and smells that I can't get past. But for the most part, I'll eat anything you put in front of me at least once. If I don't like it, then I don't like it. But I genuinely try to eat at least everything once. Like, I can tell if I'm gonna like something generally, you know, just by the ingredient list. But you know. I hate that this is drying up. There we go. Just needed to do a bit of a correction there. Grab some of this highlight as well. Move a little bit further into the throat here. Like so. That's what I was seeing there in the camera. There's a little spot right here on his throat that was like darker than everything else, and I was like, what is that? Mangoes. My favorite fruit is either watermelon, strawberry, or pears, like fresh pears. When they're nice and juicy, it's the greatest. Sounds like it's raining outside. It was raining so heavy earlier today that both my power and my internet went out. I ended up staying in my office a little bit longer than normal just because I couldn't go home and work. So I'm hoping I don't lose power again or internet, because it would be a shame if this just dropped. Is it just because like they're hard to get where you're at, or just they're expensive? Wish I had known that earlier. Gotcha. So it's more of one of those, like, it's can be harvested out of season, but it's pretty seasonal, and so you can't really get them right now, kind of thing. I don't actually think I've ever had fresh fresh kiwi. Not that I haven't, not that I'm like, ew, gross kiwi. It's just I've never had the opportunity. Well, I guess I've had the opportunity, just not the desire. I don't know. I don't know if any of what I just said makes sense. But that's what it is. Gotcha. That is the wrong brush. That's not the one I wanted to use, because I don't like this brush. This is the one I wanted to use. So you're kind of saying that you're disappointed that food is easier to get a hold of? Because it tastes slightly worse? Interesting. You mean, Calico, you're telling me that GMOs don't taste as good as non-GMO food? Madness. To be fair, pretty much everything we have that's a vegetable or fruit is a GMO. There isn't a single banana on the planet that is not a GMO, and there's not a single ear of corn. There's not a single watermelon that is not a GMO. There isn't a single carrot that's a non-GMO either. Yep, I did know that actually. Which I always like learning these facts because it's like all the like health nuts who are like, you don't need to be eating GMOs. GMOs is unnatural. Yet they'll recommend you eat broccoli or bananas or whatever, and it's like, dude, you realize what you're asking. You're saying you don't want a GMO, but you're pointing us to eat a GMO. Bruh. I mean, like, I guess the concept is good, but it's like your execution's a little off there, bud. Well, it's not, from what I understand, it's not fully extinct. Basically what happened is there was a disease that took out, like 90% of the trees in the world. And so the bananas that we have today are all descendants from one single surviving tree. So it's a GMO because they're all like genetically derived from a single plant versus being a, natural, not naturally occurring plant. At least that's what I understand. I could be completely wrong. And ironically, humans have been genetically altering food since we started farming. Like, that's the whole thing about agriculture, is like we are genetically altering food. We are harvesting based upon certain traits and dying based upon other traits. We've been doing that for millennia. So nothing we have today is truly non-GMO. We are getting there, folks. I think it's looking pretty daggum good. And we're about 2.5 hours in, so probably what I'll do, go ahead and finish the non-metallic metal on this pendant here. Figure out what color I want the center gem to be. Give it a good base coat for that gem color. And then we'll be done. Let's clean this up a little bit. There. That pendant looks super cool. Interesting. Dude, I like that pendant. All right, so what color should we paint this pendant? What are we thinking here, y'all? I'm thinking maybe a sapphire. I don't know. Or maybe a ruby. I do a lot of reds in a lot of my painting. The leathers obviously could be a lot of browns. So red is kind of a brownish color. So let's maybe think of something. Ooh. And we already have blue in his eyes. So how about we do green, an emerald? Let's do that. Let's do an emerald. So first thing we're gonna do, I've seen this technique done, but I've not done it before. So again, a bunch of firsts. In order to make something look transparent, first we gotta paint it black. Sorry, I got really distracted by the I want to do it emerald. I just saw your answer. I think pearl would have been okay. The only problem with that, I think, is the fact that I have a lot of white in my reflections on the gold here. That I think that would have that may have gotten a little bit lost. I'm gonna Google a reference image really quick. Okay, yeah. All right, so what I'm seeing from people... Oops, I forgot I had green on my brush. So take it. Black and white to begin with. Kind of like that. And then we're just going to slowly build up our green color. With a glaze. I'm assuming that's how they do it. I'm just looking at reference photos. So we'll assume that they're doing it with a glaze. And they're just going to slowly build up the layers. To make it look green. Interesting. Emeralds are, I think, one of the more pretty gemstones out there. For sure. So I'm going to zoom this in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm kind of making it fade from white to green. And I'm going to keep very, very little of that white actually in the gem. And then I'm going to put a secondary reflection on the top of the gemstone, if that makes sense. Because a lot of what I'm seeing online, that's exactly what people are kind of leaning towards, is secondary reflection on the top of the gemstone, like maybe right here. Like where the light is actually hitting, and that kind of filters through the light of the gemstone. Yeah, mine's my birthstone's a ruby. I really like the look of that. I'm so excited about this mini. Dude, it's looking so good so far. I'm really liking the way it's turning out. I think, like, for me personally, this is some of the best I've done so far as like skin tone. I'm excited to keep going with it. So I don't know if I actually want to stop now or keep going. Soften up these highlights around his lips so that it looks a little bit less like a bright mustache and more of an actual highlight. Alright, well we still got, I normally like to go 3 hours, so let's go ahead and just start doing some of the highlights on this necklace here. This is where it goes from being tedious to being very tedious, because now I'm going to take and do about half of each link with my brighter shade of yellow. That's all right. Yeah, exactly. But I do go and I get like highlights from each stream and like edit them down for YouTube and TikTok and all that. So unfortunately, I have to listen to my own stupid voice for several hours after I'm finished the stream. So I don't think I will forget where I left off unless I leave off in the middle of something. If that makes sense. So if I stop now, I can find a good stopping point. That's not a problem. So if I start something and then finish off in the middle, then I'm like, where did I leave off? I don't know. Because I'm dumb like that sometimes. Do a bit of edge highlighting on the top edge of this necklace. I'm pretty sure YouTube will not say hi because I usually get all of 1 or 2 views per video. But if YouTube does say hi, I will be sure to let you know. And I think I only get 1 to 2 views per video because I am terrible at marketing myself on YouTube. And by marketing myself, I mean all I do is I upload them and then forget they exist. There's a bug in my face. How's it going? You only... On your YouTube? To be fair, though, Twitch is a lot worse for discovery. What's going up? Where's Bot? Where's Boot? I don't know. Where eyes Boot? Dude, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna call you Where. But welcome to the stream. It's good to see you here. We're just working on this awesome bust from Loot Studios. Just working on a little bit of non-metallic metal here. I'm talking about how terrible YouTube is sometimes. So the problem, so Twitch is a fickle thing, right? Because Twitch is really saturated, so you have to figure out a niche. So if you're streaming like Call of Duty, you're not going to get discovered. If you are streaming, say, painting, you're more discoverable than somebody who is, you know, streaming, you know, Warzone or you know, something like that. And then, of course, you do have Discord, but you kind of have to have an in with those Discords first. For instance, I was very, very fortunate with TOI in giving me kind of like my first round of followers. But the problem is, beyond that, if I didn't have that already, then nobody would have, you know, followed me for a while. And I definitely would not be, you know, what, 20 followers away from... So, I'm not, I wish I was. No, I'm not, sponsored by them. Again, I wish I was, because I've been a subscriber to Loot Studios for probably a year or more. I just really like their stuff. I mean, a lot of the details and stuff like that on their miniatures are just absolutely phenomenal. Like, I mean, this guy looks amazing even before I started painting him. And now he just kind of looks painted. Don't know if he's amazing or not, but still. I just think Loot Studios makes great stuff. I've got a couple 3D printers, so I'm very fortunate and I'm able to actually print their stuff off. But no, I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like them. So I stream on Mondays and Wednesdays, usually starting around 9, and then I usually stop between 11:30 and midnight, depending on what I'm doing on the miniature. So if I'm like at a stopping point during, at like 11:30, I'll go ahead and stop. But if I'm really motivated and I'm having a lot of fun, people are talking, I'm just sitting here chilling, hanging out with everybody, then I might go a little bit longer. To like midnight. So in this case, I'm probably going to stick to, I'm probably going to go until midnight because this miniature is awesome and people are here. All right, so I'm out of white. I've got my off-white, but I need more white. Where's my white? There you are. So I'm going to come back and I'm just going to put a dot, just a dot of this bright white on the on each one of these links on the chain, just to kind of give it that idea of high reflectivity, I guess you call it. Well, not much, just a little dab. Because we want this to look polished, and make something look polished by giving it a lot of contrast. And okay, I'll have to check them out. Are they like a Patreon company, or do they sell physical miniatures? Well, I appreciate it. Anyone who's ever complimented me ever will tell you that I'm the biggest critic of my own work, and I don't actually think I do a good job. I just paint it the way I think it looks cool, and people like it, so. It's like that. I'm pretty sure Calico has I'm pretty sure she has gotten more people on my Discord than I have, because I'm so bad at like marketing myself. Okay, I'll definitely check them out, because like I love 3D printing models, but it's so cool when I can find models that I don't actually have to put work in before I can work on them. 3D printing is a lot of fun, and it's really cool to take a miniature from like liquid resin to this. That's cool. That's kind of like your ability to manufacture and then paint your own miniatures. But I do really like it when I can find companies that make awesome miniatures and sell them without me having to print them. So I'll definitely check them out, because again, I've got some more GW models on the way too that I wouldn't mind painting on stream, but I think people get more people on this stream are probably more into fantasy than Warhammer. But I will pretty much do anything. I just like painting. So Warhammer is complicated. So Warhammer technically is fantasy, but it's also sci-fi, but it's also kind of more grimdark. So like it's 40,000 in the, it's like 40,000 years into the future of a fantasy world. So there are like space elves and like gods of chaos and stuff. So it's very much so fantasy, but it is more like sci-fi in that like you have mechs and stuff like that. So Warhammer is also a war game, and so you have to have a lot of miniatures for your army. And in my opinion, they make some probably the best sprue miniatures out there. So like the best plastic models out there, or some of the best plastic models, not necessarily the best, but and so they're extremely popular. I've never watched any of their like any of the stuff the Games Workshop's created. I've seen some like fan-made stuff, and the lore of Warhammer 40K is awesome. I should really, they do have like a publishing company called the Black Library. I should probably actually get into and start reading some of that, but I'm too busy reading through some of Brandon Sanderson's stuff. I don't know if you know who Brandon Sanderson is, but he's amazing. Down to Earth is not the way I put it. So they're more, well, it's grimdark, so it's not necessarily down to earth. It's more like there's no side is the good side. Okay, so you know who Brandon Sanderson is then, yeah. So I've finished the Mistborn series. I finished the Stormlight Archives. I finished his Steelheart, or technically it's the Reckoner series. I finished what he's written so far with Skyward. I've finished Warbreaker, and I'm reading through Elantris right now, and I'm also reading through the Wax and Wane trilogy of Mistborn. So, like, I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson's fan. And I also got in on the Kickstarter that he did, too, so I'm super excited about that. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Brandon Sanderson is a fantasy author. Probably the most prolific and I would say one of the most loved fantasy authors in, like, the modern scene, like, fantasy scene. Because his work is just absolutely phenomenal. What part of the world are you from then? So I'm in the U.S. Calico's Canadian. She's Canadian bacon, and I think Liam is too. So we've got a little bit of an international audience. But yeah, nice. Brazil. Awesome. Actually, Loot Studios is based in Brazil, I think, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I'm gonna grab more of my skin tone. And do a few corrections here. Oof. Too much yellow. Yeah. Again, I really wish I was sponsored by them because they're and it's kind of weird because I got in with Loot Studios probably like right after I started really getting into miniatures. Like my first 3D printer that I bought was an Elegoo Mars Pro, And then after I bought the Elegoo Mars Pro and set it up, I subscribed to Loot Studios. And I have not looked back. Like, I've not, like, and I've told everybody on the stream this before, but like, there's been one pack of theirs that I just didn't prefer, but the miniatures are still awesome. So they did one that was like Egyptian themed. And at the time, and I still don't. I don't have any like D&D games that are Egyptian themed or anything like that. So I was just like, eh. I mean, all the miniatures were phenomenal. But that was the only Loot Studios pack where I never actually printed anything out of. Everything else I've printed something out of. And I've used either in games or just in painting as a hobby. So, but you know, welcome to the stream. I'm so glad that you came. Calico, as always, Liam, as always, and anybody else who's stopped by. Love all of you. I think I'm going to end there because, yeah, I mean, really what I'm going to do next is I'm going to move on to his body, move on to his sword, maybe do a few corrections here and there on the face as I go, but I think that is it for tonight. As always, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support. It means everything to me. And whether you are new here or returning, as always, you're awesome. Thanks for the follow, man. I really appreciate it. But that is it for me tonight. I say that as I continue to mix colors because I see stuff I want to correct. Because I'm, you know, evidently I don't know when to stop. But yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you here on Wednesday. And if I don't, I hope you have a wonderful week. Yes, I will absolutely be streaming on Wednesday. Wednesday, 9 p.m. All right, guys. I might actually go and hang out in Discord for a little while. Maybe play a little bit of completely blanking right now. Oh, well. I'll play a video game. I don't know. So, yep, 9 p.m. EST. Guys, thank you so much for joining me, as always. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Bye.